Winter dusk pressed against the glass walls of the Quan estate, as the elite gathered under chandeliers that glowed like trapped fire. At the ballroom center, Evelyn Parker, fiancée of the most feared man in the city, lifted her crystal flute with a smile sharp enough to cut. Then the server brushed her gown. The glass shattered. Conversation died. "Pick it up," Evelyn said softly, her heel pinning a shard beside the girl's trembling hand. "Bleed if you must. Just don't disappoint me again." At the doorway, Petra Adams froze. 3 days in Los Angeles, a job she desperately needed, and she'd walked straight into a cruelty the room treated as normal. A deeper voice broke the silence. "Evelyn, that's enough." Adrian Kwan stepped forward, tailored black suit, unreadable eyes. And for a fleeting second, those eyes found Petra. Something tightened in his expression. Something Evelyn noticed instantly. "So that's it," she whispered, fury rising. "One look at her and you forget who runs this house." Petra felt every gaze turn toward her, the weight of danger settling on her skin like cold rain. She wasn't part of this world. Yet it had already decided she was a threat. And in that single moment, before she even spoke a word, Petra's life veered off the path she thought she controlled. The real story begins with the question, why couldn't Adrian look away? If this opening pulls you in, beautiful souls, like the video and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales so you never miss the next chapter. The ballroom's glittering lights faded behind Petra as she hurried down the narrow servant hallway, her breath uneven. She had only been in Los Angeles for 72 hours, and already the house felt like a trap disguised as luxury. The echoes from the ballroom, Evelyn's sharp command, the brittle shatter of crystal, the murmurs of wealthy guests ignoring cruelty, clung to her like smoke. Mrs. Cho found her near the service stairwell, arms crossed, eyes knowing. "You saw too much already," the older woman muttered. "Keep your head down, Petra Adams. In this house, eyes get people hurt." Petra swallowed. "Yes, ma'am." But even she could hear the doubt in her own voice. She had traveled across the world for work, for dignity, for her family back home who needed her salary. Yet every turn in this mansion showed her something colder. A hierarchy built on fear, a fiancé whose temper ruled entire rooms, and a man, Adrian Kwan, whose unreadable gaze felt like both danger and refuge. The next morning, before the sun could warm the horizon, Petra carried a breakfast tray to the private office on the 3rd floor. Mrs. Cho had warned her. Knock twice, keep her eyes down, speak only if spoken to. Petra practiced those rules with every step, whispering them like a fragile prayer. Her knuckles tapped the carved wooden door. "Come in," Adrian's voice said, calm, deep, steady. She pushed the door open, gaze low, but the heavy tray wobbled as the corner of a rug caught her shoe. She braced for disaster. Coffee, porcelain, her job, yet none of it fell. Strong hands stopped the tilt, steadying the tray as if it weighed nothing. "Careful," Adrian murmured. Petra looked up before she could stop herself. He stood inches away, broad-shouldered, composed, and watching her not with irritation, but with a startling softness. She'd never seen softness in this house. "Thank you, sir," she whispered, stepping back quickly. Adrian set the tray down. "You're new." "Yes, sir." "And nervous." She didn't answer, but her silence told him everything. Before he could ask more, a sharp voice sliced into the room. "Why is she in here alone with you?" Evelyn appeared in the doorway, silk robe flowing behind her like a storm cloud. Her eyes flicked from the tray to Petra's face, to the small distance between Petra and Adrian, and erupted with accusation. "I asked you a question," Evelyn snapped. "She's delivering breakfast," Adrian said calmly. "Not anymore," Evelyn hissed. "She's dismissed." Petra froze. Adrian's jaw tightened. "No," he said. "She isn't." Evelyn blinked, stunned for the first time in years. "Excuse me." Adrian's voice stayed level, but the steel inside it changed the air. "You don't fire my staff." That was the moment Evelyn truly saw Petra, not as a maid but as a threat. The days that followed were a quiet spiral. Petra worked silently, Yet tension followed her like a shadow. Staff whispered that Evelyn had raged behind closed doors, demanding Adrian explain the look he'd given the new maid. Some claimed they heard shouting. Others feared the walls would break before their relationship did. One evening, while Petra cleaned the foyer's marble floors, Evelyn descended the stairs with the soft click of designer heels. She stopped at the last step and smiled, a small, cold curve of her lips. "You're very confident for someone replaceable," Evelyn said. Petra kept her hands moving, but her heart pounded. "I'm just doing my job, ma'am. You think this house protects you. It doesn't protect anyone I don't allow." She stepped closer until Petra could smell the expensive perfume layered over something rotten. Resentment. "If you want to stay employed, you will avoid Adrian. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." But Evelyn wasn't satisfied. "Look at me when I speak to you." Petra lifted her gaze. Evelyn's eyes glittered. "If he looks at you again, I'll break more than a champagne glass. I will break you." The threat landed like ice, but Petra didn't respond. She had grown up fighting storms much greater than Evelyn Parker. And Evelyn hated that her words hadn't shaken the girl as much as she wanted. Tension snapped 3 days later. Adrian was hosting a closed-door meeting with partners from a major investment firm. Petra was instructed to bring tea and retreat, nothing more. Yet when she entered the conference room, she found Evelyn seated beside Adrian, hand on his shoulder as if claiming him publicly. "Set it down," Evelyn ordered. "And be quick. Your presence is distracting." Adrian shot her a warning glance, but Evelyn ignored it. She knocked her glass intentionally as Petra poured. Liquid spilled across the table and onto Evelyn's designer dress. "Unbelievable," Evelyn hissed. "You incompetent." "It was your hand," Petra said before fear could silence her. The room fell still. Evelyn rose slowly, the controlled fury more terrifying than her shouting. "You just made the worst mistake of your life." "Evelyn," Adrian warned. She slapped Petra across the face. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Adrian stood so fast his chair toppled. "That's enough." His tone wasn't loud, but it shook every man in the room. He stepped between Petra and Evelyn, shielding the maid with his body. "You're losing your mind," Evelyn whispered. "Over her." Adrian didn't answer. But he didn't have to. His silence was the loudest truth Evelyn had ever heard. Petra avoided Adrian for days afterward, terrified of what her presence had caused. Yet one night, while polishing silver in the staff pantry, she sensed someone behind her. Adrian stood in the doorway, tie loosened, eyes shadowed. "I need to apologize," he said. "You don't have to, sir." "I do." "I didn't stop her fast enough." Petra set the last spoon down. "It's not your responsibility." "It is," he said quietly. "Everything in this house is." Their eyes met, not in romance but in understanding, the kind forged in shared loneliness. "Petra," he said, voice lower, "tell me the truth. Has she threatened you?" Petra didn't want trouble. She didn't want drama. But she also didn't want to lie. "Yes," she whispered. Adrian's expression hardened with purpose. "Then it ends tonight." Evelyn never expected Adrian to confront her publicly. But at the next evening's gathering, dozens of investors, friends, political figures, he did exactly that. The room glittered with wealth and quiet power when Adrian tapped his glass, drawing eyes his way. "I need to address something," he announced. "Something personal. Something unacceptable." Evelyn smiled wide, stepping closer as if expecting a proposal or praise. But Adrian didn't take her hand. "Any member of my staff," he said, "is under my protection. Anyone who humiliates, threatens, or harms them is no partner of mine." Evelyn stiffened. "And for that reason," Adrian continued, "our engagement is over." Gasps rippled across the room like a wave. Evelyn's smile cracked. "You can't be serious," she whispered. "You crossed a line," Adrian said. Repeatedly. Her voice broke into a jagged hiss. This is about her, isn't it? This is about you, he said. And what you chose to become. Evelyn's mask shattered. You owe me everything. Carried you through every social door. You think anyone respects a man whose father built his empire on fear? I made you legitimate. And you throw me away for a maid. The room recoiled at her words. Adrian didn't speak again. His silence condemned her more than anything he could say. Security escorted her out. Evelyn screamed his name until the doors swallowed her voice. But villains rarely exit quietly. Evelyn waited a week. Plotting. Consumed by humiliation and jealousy that boiled her logic into dust. Late one night, she returned to the estate with a stolen access card and a plan fueled by spite. Ruin Adrian's reputation, sabotage his assets, make him pay for choosing dignity over her cruelty. She broke into his office, searching for documents and passwords. She didn't notice the silent alarm trip. She didn't hear the footsteps behind her until it was too late. Evelyn, Adrian said from the doorway. What are you doing? She spun wild-eyed. Fixing what you destroyed. Security lights cast harsh shadows across her face. She grabbed a paperweight, a foolish, desperate weapon. Petra appeared behind Adrian, having rushed in when she heard the alarm. Evelyn's gaze sharpened. It's always you, she snarled. You ruined my life. You ruined your own life, Petra said quietly. For the first time, her voice held no fear. Evelyn lunged. Reckless, unhinged. Adrian stopped her easily. But it was the security camera recording every second that sealed her fate. Attempted theft. Breaking and entering. Violation of contract. Violence. And worst of all, the world finally saw the truth behind her perfect public image. Within days, investors cut ties. Her family withdrew their support. Headlines roasted her downfall. Brands cancelled her partnerships. Her friends vanished like smoke. Evelyn Parker, once the shining avatar of elite society, became a cautionary tale of cruelty exposed. The consequence was not death, not violence, but something far more devastating to someone like her. Irrelevance. She lost the empire she thought she controlled, while Petra, the girl she tried to break, became the symbol of everything Evelyn had failed to be. Petra stayed at the mansion, not as a maid trapped by circumstance, but as someone Adrian trusted. He replaced fear in the estate with transparency, respect, and fairness. The staff began smiling again. Mrs. Cho aged backward with relief. And sometimes when Petra walked past the ballroom where everything began, she paused, listening to the quiet hum of a house finally learning peace. The final twist Evelyn never saw coming wasn't that Adrian defended Petra. It was that Petra never needed defending to win. Her dignity had always been stronger than Evelyn's cruelty. Her kindness, louder than Evelyn's status. And her future, brighter than anything Evelyn tried to destroy. In the weeks that followed, the mansion settled into a quieter rhythm, as if the walls themselves were learning how to breathe again. Petra moved through each day with a steadier heart, no longer shrinking beneath anyone's shadow. She didn't rise because someone saved her. She rose because she finally understood her worth. And strangely, that realization changed Adrian too. The man who once ruled by distance now listened more, choosing truth over perfection, choosing decency over appearances. They rarely spoke about Evelyn after that night. Her absence echoed through every unused corridor, a reminder of how quickly a life built on pretense can collapse. But Petra didn't celebrate the downfall. What stayed with her was the power of standing firm, even when her voice shook. She had entered the house expecting to disappear. Instead, she uncovered a strength she never knew she carried. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Adrian paused beside her on the balcony. You changed more than you realize, he said quietly. Not just this house. Me. Petra didn't answer right away. She simply watched the fading light and felt, for the first time, that she belonged exactly where her courage had led her. And that's the truth of this story. Sometimes the smallest act of bravery becomes the moment everything shifts. If this journey touched you, beautiful souls, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales to help our community grow.